Disrespectful that you guys just like, y'all wrote that album off. Like none of y'all like even took a second to even understand like the African proverbs that were like littered all over.
You're so sneaky. You're trying to erase my contributions to like house music, dance music, electronic music, and all of that.
Beyonce literally ripped y'all off the internet, like didn't really give y'all no credit.
Azealia Banks is stirring the pot again, this time aiming straight at Beyonce's dark past. In a series of bold claims, Banks suggests that long before Jay-Z, Beyonce was allegedly involved in Diddy's shady circle.
What it sounds like to me is that the government found a very, very, very successful way to control and manipulate hip-hop by allowing their top agents to run everything.
According to Banks, Beyonce's rise to power wasn't just about talent. It was built on manipulation, secrets, and silence.
Beyonce, girl, can I do a brown skin girl remix without you ripping it down off the internet?
So what does Azealia know about Beyonce's past? Is she about to take Beyonce down? Let's get into it. Azealia Banks is no stranger to controversy, but her latest tirade has ignited a firestorm that might just blow the lid off one of the most powerful figures in pop culture, Beyonce herself. According to Banks, the flawless image of Queen Bey that the world worships is nothing more than a well-packaged lie, carefully crafted by handlers, protected by elite industry puppeteers, and soaked in decades of rumored darkness that predates even her relationship with Jay-Z. In Banks' eyes, Beyonce isn't the angelic symbol of female empowerment and artistic genius she pretends to be. She's a product of manipulation, backroom deals, and ruthless ambition that allegedly left a trail of compromised morals and buried secrets in its wake.
But it's like, Beyonce literally ripped y'all off the internet, like didn't really give y'all no credit. And y'all are just be on here all day like,
The whispers have always been there. Did Beyonce really earn her way to the top? Or was she groomed and protected by the very same men now being exposed for abuse of power in the industry? Before the glitz, Grammys, and global tours, there were rumors of Beyonce being involved in dirty dealings through her early connections with industry titans like Diddy. Azealia Banks, never afraid to call out hypocrisy, has been pushing this narrative forward, claiming that Beyonce made major moral sacrifices to gain favor in the elite music circles that dominate entertainment. Banks points to exclusive invitation-only parties hosted by figures like Diddy, where shady business, unspoken exchanges, and silent agreements allegedly took place behind closed doors. According to her, Beyonce wasn't just a rising star attending these events. She was reportedly involved in the inner workings of this secretive world. Some even speculate that Bey's attendance at these high-powered gatherings was not purely social, but a means of negotiating access, leveraging connections, and earning loyalty in ways that went far beyond singing and dancing. Azealia and others suggest that it was through these covert environments that Beyonce supposedly secured early protection and fast-tracked her path to superstardom.
Just encapsulate in time. Like, you're a creep. You're a creep, Beyonce.
But it doesn't stop at Diddy's parties. Banks has made the bold claim that Beyonce was being positioned as an industry gatekeeper, a powerful figure designed not just to succeed, but to monitor, redirect, or even suppress other rising artists who could threaten the established hierarchy. Banks argues that Beyonce was groomed to protect the system, not challenge it. And as a result, artists who didn't play by the same rules or refused to fall in line were pushed to the margins while Beyonce ascended. Azealia has long been outspoken about how Beyonce allegedly manipulates her public image. She claims the singer's wholesome, empowering aesthetic is nothing more than a PR illusion, propped up by secret handlers and a media machine that erases her darker past. According to Banks, Beyonce was involved in dark PR tactics that helped cover up mistakes, silence rumors, and reshape narratives. It's all calculated. From the bootylicious era to the cultural icon status of Lemonade, Banks claims every move Beyonce makes is filtered through a lens of power, strategy, and protection, not authenticity.
We gave you your props for Black is King because, like, okay, like, okay, whatever, like she's doing her like ocean cosplay.
What's even more disturbing are the unconfirmed but persistent allegations involving substance use, secret tapes, and hidden leverage. Rumors have swirled for years that Beyoncé was introduced to a darker lifestyle early in her career, one allegedly filled with substance experimentation, questionable companionships, and even private recordings used by industry insiders to control or coerce. There were tapes found during a raid in Diddy's house. 3 tapes reportedly obtained from Diddy's home may reveal A-list celebrities involved in intimate acts at his parties. It has been claimed several times that many Hollywood names will be revealed from the Diddy controversy. Attorney Ariel Mitchell-Kidd, who is representing one of many Diddy's accusers, revealed that 3 tapes were obtained from the mogul's residence. The 3 tapes contain the names of 3 A-list celebrities who participated in the rapper's freak-off parties and performed intimate acts. An insider claimed that one of the famous males in question has been worried about the outcomes if the alleged tapes get revealed. The source told the media outlet, "It feels like a betrayal and a violation, and it's causing a lot of issues. It brings up some really disturbing and bad memories. He feels like he was victimized years ago and is now being victimized yet again. If this footage gets out, it will follow him for life. It will be on the internet forever." Moreover, in a press conference, attorney Tony Busby also said, "The day will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already, but because of the nature of this case, we are going to make damn sure, that we're right before we do that." He emphasized the names will shock you. Now that's where people have raised their eyebrows. These tapes, if they exist, would be industry dynamite. And Banks has hinted that some people still hold dangerous receipts that could flip Beyoncé's perfect image upside down. Central to these claims is Beyoncé's deep connection to Diddy's inner circle, a network now being dragged into the spotlight for its alleged history of abuse, cover-ups, and industry coercion. While the full truth remains hidden, insiders suggest Beyoncé wasn't just a bystander in this world. She was allegedly a participant, or at least a beneficiary of the same dark machinery that's now crumbling, and that's where Banks draws the line.
You're still a black person. At the end of the day, you need to know your history. You need to know something other than cunt.
This tension between Azealia Banks and Beyoncé has been simmering for years, but it's become increasingly volatile and personal. Banks accuses Beyoncé of being a cultural thief, stealing aesthetics, sounds, and ideas from underground black artists without acknowledgement. In her words, Beyoncé is a poacher who repackages the raw, authentic work of others and sells it to the masses as if it's her own creation. Banks has repeatedly claimed that Beyoncé doesn't uplift the culture, she cannibalizes it. Banks has also slammed Beyoncé's celebrated album Lemonade, which she once praised, only to later call a feminist scam. She argued that the album centered Beyoncé's entire identity around a cheating man, and that rather than being empowering, it was a slave mentality showcase wrapped in fake deep metaphors. To Banks, Beyoncé uses the pain of black women as a performance, profitable trauma porn that benefits her bank account but does nothing to actually challenge oppression. Azealia Banks has spoken out against Beyoncé's new country-tinged musical direction, saying she is setting herself up to be ridiculed. Beyoncé announced details of her new album Renaissance Act tune during a Verizon advertisement during the Super Bowl. As soon as the advert concluded, Beyoncé released the project's first 2 singles, Texas Hold'em and 16 Carriages, and the banjo twang of the former and the slow, forlorn pacing of the latter both seem to confirm ongoing fan speculation that Beyoncé was planning on releasing a country-flavored album. Now, Banks has spoken up, warning her fellow performer that she was making a mistake. In an Instagram Stories post, she said about the new material, "Nothing country about it. You're setting yourself up to be ridiculed again. There's a theatrical element to country music. Them critics are not just going to accept an ugly blonde wig and bullying from Jay-Z. It's giving big-time musical grift. Yes, black girls can make country music," she continued, "but you're just really not hitting the button." When Beyoncé dropped Renaissance, rumors began swirling that she might sample Azelia's work. Banks fired back with threats of lawsuits, not just at Beyoncé, but at her entire team, label, and even her daughter Blue Ivy. That moment was a clear line in the sand. Banks doesn't just dislike Beyoncé, she believes she's dangerous, fraudulent, and protected by a corrupt system. Things escalated again when Beyoncé released Break My Soul, a house-influenced track. Banks, a pioneer in the genre, ripped it apart, calling it bad house music for people who've never heard real house before. She accused accused Beyoncé of trend hopping, trying to reclaim relevance by jumping into spaces she doesn't understand or respect. In 2018, Azealia Banks added fuel to the fire with accusations that Beyoncé tries to steal from talented women. She claimed Bey lacked originality, specifically criticizing her for using stolen choreography from a video for Count Contessa. These claims came just after Beyoncé and Jay-Z wrapped up their On the Run 2 tour, sparking more controversy around the idea of Bey borrowing from others without giving credit. I realized that my ex-dancer Ashanti choreographed for Beyoncé and stole the original choreography Jip Jack made for Count Contessa, Banks wrote, before suggesting Beyoncé give her a job. Beyoncé needs to get over herself and just hire me. Azealia Banks has doubled down on her criticism of Beyoncé, claiming that Bey has consistently ripped off talented women. She argues that while Beyoncé promotes female empowerment, she undermines it by stealing from talented women and trying to one-up them. Banks believes that Beyoncé needs to get real with herself and humble up, acknowledging the full work and creative visions of other women who admire her. "We don't need any more Beyoncé thought moments," Banks quipped. "I have no clue why she wants to be a regular bee." Back in 2016, Banks took it a step further, accusing Beyoncé of exploiting Black female artists. She tweeted, "She's not an artist, she's a poacher. She takes food out of darker-skinned women's mouths and pretends to be inspired." Banks also suggested that Beyoncé should stay in Jay-Z's shadow, keeping out of the way of creative women. The same criticism followed the release of Cowboy Carter, which Banks described as white woman cosplay, accusing Beyoncé of abandoning her blackness whenever it suits her career agenda. In a scathing rant posted to her Instagram account recently, Banks went off on Beyoncé and Jay-Z for her new album. Banks explained it all just feels like a huge eye roll. "Ugh, I'm so saddened by Jay-Z and his over-strategizing everything Bey does, to the point where it's clearly his influence and not the real Bianca Bardo. Someone tell Jay-Z his strategies are corny and Beyoncé has better ideas. We would like to see her outside without him and his pound puppy dreadlocks breathing all over her," Banks said. Banks continued to taunt Beyoncé, this time with an image of Banks in cowboy gear from an old music video. In the caption of her post, she simply wrote, "The OG." It was yet another example of how Banks feels, as though Beyoncé has been watching her and copying her aesthetic. But perhaps the sharpest cut comes in Banks' claim that Jay-Z is the real puppet master. She sees Beyoncé as nothing more than his pawn, someone who spent her life following instructions, playing roles, and chasing legacy at any cost. Banks mocks Beyoncé for never defending herself, calling her silence cowardice. She believes that Beyoncé hides behind her fans, her metaphors, and her carefully curated persona because she's afraid of real confrontation.
Beyoncé, girl, can I do a brown skin girl remix without you ripping it down off the internet?
And now, Banks says Beyoncé is creatively washed, a woman with too much money and too little soul left to offer. Every new project is, in her eyes, another hollow attempt to stay relevant, a once powerful figure coasting on brand and legacy rather than heart and vision. At the core of all this is one explosive suggestion, that Beyoncé's fame was never organic, that she didn't simply outwork or outshine everyone, but that she was built, shielded, and promoted by a machine of men like Diddy, with secrets darker than anyone wants to admit. And now, with that machine breaking apart, Azealia Banks seems more determined than ever to expose the hidden truths behind the crown. Whether she's exposing real skeletons or just adding fuel to the fire, one thing's clear: Banks isn't afraid of Beyoncé, and she's ready to bring the whole house down. Now, this has been long suggested that Beyoncé uses the artists that she thinks are less known. Keisha Cole talked about this. She wasn't one to sugarcoat anything, and that's exactly what sparked the fire. The whole thing kicked off when Keisha hopped on Twitter and gave her 2 cents about Beyoncé's track, "Bow Down I've Been On."
Don't forget it, don't forget it. Respect that.
The song was seen by some as a bold assertion of Beyoncé's dominance in the music industry. Keisha Cole, however, saw it differently. She tweeted, "Can't stand when people all self-righteous when it's convenient it makes them look good, El Mao, but can still talk S when convenient to FOH." In a since-deleted tweet, she went on to add, "First women need to stick together, now B's better bow. But it's all G. Chicks stay shooting the But when I speak my mind, it's a prob." Keisha didn't hold back when she talked about Beyoncé. She went on Twitter and shared her honest opinion about Bey's song, "Bow Down I've Been On." And let's just say she wasn't feeling it. Keisha called out the lyrics and the message behind the song, saying women should be supporting each other, not bringing each other down. She tweeted things like, "Women need to stick together," and "Some people act nice but still talk trash when it suits them," making it clear she had something to say.
And there was something about how Keisha Cole complained that you weren't giving her any songs because of your relationship with Beyonce and how she sort of said something about Beyonce.
Social media went wild. The Bayhive came in full force. What seemed like just another online argument might have actually been a sign of a bigger issue behind the scenes. Some people gave Keisha props for speaking her truth and standing up for female unity. But Beyonce's die-hard fans, the Bayhive, weren't having it. They fired back fast, defending Beyonce and going in on Keisha for coming at their queen. As usual with social media, things got big fast. Hashtags popped up, arguments broke out, and everyone jumped in with their opinions. What began as a couple of tweets turned into a full-on online battle, with fans from both sides going at it. Whether you sided with Keisha or not, one thing was obvious. She started a conversation that was bigger than just one song. Insiders claim Keisha had been outspoken about her discomfort with the Beyonce machine long before that tweet. She didn't play industry politics. She didn't bite her tongue. And according to several industry whispers, she paid the price for it.
Has taken it so literal that she has completely twisted it, and she's come for Beyonce. I don't like how she tried to come for her. Anybody came for Beyonce. That girl is at the top of her game.
Not long after the tweet, her label support faded. Major platforms stopped promoting her music. Features dried up. And just like that, Keisha Cole, the woman with platinum albums and a hit TV show, became an industry ghost. The Beyoncé Effect. Let's be real, this isn't a new conversation. For years, Beyonce has been seen as untouchable, the ultimate symbol of fame, success, and power. On the surface, she's always calm, classy, and stays far away from drama. But behind that perfect image, there have been quiet whispers, stories that keep popping up about what happens when another woman speaks up, questions her, or even slightly challenges her spot at the top.
But, yeah, I always knew Beyonce was gonna be Beyonce, though.
Take Carrie Hilson, for example. She was once one of the brightest rising stars in the music industry. She could sing, dance, and write songs for some of the biggest names out there. But things took a sharp turn after she threw some shade at Beyonce in her song, Turnin' Me On. She didn't say Beyonce's name directly, but the message was loud and clear, calling out fake images and so-called made-up divas.
I protected him. I protected the girl that wrote it, who went on to become famous. I protected everyone in the story, so I had to eat that. I had to eat that. And I am still eating it to this day.
Not long after that diss, Carrie Hilson's career went quiet. No more big interviews, her music projects stalled, and she seemed to vanish from the spotlight. To this day, she's hinted at being blacklisted, and a lot of people think it's because she dared to take a shot at the queen. Then there's Tinashe, who hit the scene with a lot of buzz. Her debut single, 2 On, was a hit, and many thought she'd be the next big R&B pop star. But it didn't last. Tinashe started speaking out, saying she felt controlled, suffocated, and left out of major decisions in her own career. She even mentioned powers that be working against her, people who didn't want her to succeed.
I was in there with people that I never would have before, and I think the biggest lesson that I learned from that was how important it was to continue to have a perspective.
And even though Tinashe never called anyone out directly, people started connecting the dots, especially when her momentum suddenly stalled right as she began speaking up. Then there's Amory. She came out swinging with One Thing, a track that was bold, catchy, and ahead of its time. In 2005, it was everywhere. Amory looked like she was on her way to becoming a major star, but almost just as quickly as she rose, she disappeared. The airwaves went quiet, and around that same time, another female artist with a similar vibe, but with more industry push, started taking over. Fans have questioned for years why Amory's run ended so fast. Some believe she didn't just fade out, she was replaced. And of course, we can't forget Lauryn Hill, the ultimate what could have been. She wasn't just talented, she was legendary, a once-in-a-generation voice and a lyrical genius. But over time, the industry stopped calling her brilliant and started calling her difficult. Sure, Lauryn had personal issues, but she also challenged the system. She spoke out against the very machine that turns artists into icons, or chews them up and spits them out. After her groundbreaking album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, she all but disappeared from mainstream radio. Like so many others, she went from being a rising legend to a warning story, forgotten instead of celebrated.
Young people know that it is not a burden to love him and to represent him.
What do these women have in common? They were all talented, they were all threats, and they all spoke up about the system, about the silence, about the control. And once they did, the industry seemed to turn its back on them. And now, in the aftermath of the Diddy fallout, people are revisiting these stories, not as isolated incidents, but as a pattern, a recurring theme of powerful women, especially Black women, being strategically sidelined after stepping out of line or brushing up against the wrong industry giant. And Beyoncé's name? It keeps popping up, not in bold accusations, but in whispers, enough to make people start asking questions. Because eventually, you have to wonder, is Beyoncé just the flawless icon, the symbol of success, power, and Black excellence? Or is she also the quiet gatekeeper of an empire, one that rewards loyalty and silence, and quietly pushes out anyone who doesn't play by the rules? This is where things start to get dark. Because what's happening with Sean Diddy Combs right now, it's not just another celebrity scandal. It feels like the curtain's finally being pulled back on a twisted, hidden side of the industry. In just the past year, Diddy's gone from music mogul to the center of serious allegations. We're talking about claims of manipulation, coercion, silencing victims with NDAs, and destroying careers. It's not just about him, it's about the network of power that allowed all of it to happen. And that's what has people paying attention. Because if Diddy's empire is falling, how many others are next? And who else has quietly built their legacy on the backs of those they shut down?
Day 10 of Diddy's trial, I saw the tearful testimony from a former Diddy employee who'd spent years in his inner circle. She claims that he and threatened to.
Because let's be real, Diddy didn't run that game alone. He was part of a tight, protected circle, a group of powerful Black artists and execs who didn't just shape modern music, they controlled it. They decided who rose, who fell, and who got locked out completely. And right in that circle, Beyoncé, Jay-Z, L.A. Reid, the so-called Black elite of the entertainment world. For years, they were seen as the blueprint, symbols of Black excellence, Grammy royalty, billion-dollar empires. But now, that shiny image is starting to crack, and behind the scenes, a very different story is coming to light. It's no coincidence that Beyoncé and Jay-Z's empire blew up during the same era Diddy dominated. They moved in the same elite circles, Rock Nation brunches, exclusive deals, top-tier events. These weren't just casual business partners, they were part of the same machine, a machine built on loyalty, silence, and power moves. If you stayed in line, you were protected. If you didn't, you vanished. And this is where Beyoncé's name starts coming up in a way that makes people uncomfortable. No, she hasn't been named in any court cases, at least not yet, but a lot of people are saying the same thing. She didn't just get to the top because of her talent or hard work. She also got help from a behind-the-scenes system that made sure no one else could really compete with her. A system where other women were pushed out, deals were shut down quietly, and careers were stopped before they even took off. Because this Diddy situation isn't just about him, it's about a whole time period, one where Beyoncé was definitely a big part. She was in the same room, she worked with the same powerful people, and she was protected by the same unwritten rules.
Just make Diddy the acceptable and not address his greatest collaborator in all of his business dealings.
That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.